Welcome, everybody. My wife regularly points out that I don't need one of these, but we do for the camera today, so I'm going to start with the microphone and try to temper. Usually I'm a PA system to myself. Welcome to the redistricting workshop for the County of Santa Barbara Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. We do have a quorum here today of commissioners, so we are going to formally start the meeting, and we'll do a roll call, and then we will introduce our consultants to do the presentation, and then we really want to then have some really informal dialogue and kind of work through the tools and some of the resources that are available as we get started here the rest of the afternoon. So, Ms. Tilton, would you help us with the roll call?
Yeah, and I think what we'll do is we'll do it by way of self-introduction. So we'll start with our District 1 and go down the line. You're always first, Cheryl. But this will be a good opportunity for the public and those watching and listening to kind of see the faces. And I know it was fun for us to finally see people in real life. So we'll start off with you and go around, and that will be how we do our roll call today.
Cheryl Trotsky, District 1.
Karen Twibell, District 1.
Megan Turley, District 2.
Will McClintock, District 2.
Nobody from 3 is here.
All right. Jim Bray, Orcutt, District 4.
And again, I'm Glenn Morris. I'm your chair, and I'm from District 5. So I think that's all of us that are the members of the commission. So our agenda today is simply to work through the presentation of how redistricting works and introduce the tools that are available to folks, and then try to get some input from folks that are here and help you to understand how these tools work. So to kick us off, I'm going to introduce Ryder Smith from Tripepi Smith. They are our public affairs consultants that are working with us to do the outreach and help us with our marketing efforts. So, Ryder, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Morris. Appreciate it. Ryder Todd Smith with Tripepi Smith. I wanted to just introduce a couple of their faces real quick. So, sitting back there are Claire Burgess and Sydney Overly with Tripepi Smith as well. And, of course, our other main star today is Shalise Tilton with National Demographics Corporation. It's a small group, so much like the chair, I also have a PA voice of my own, but because we are recording today, we're going to use microphones to make sure we capture crisp and clean audio and make sure we hear from the people. Can we go to the next slide? This meeting is being recorded. Just a fair warning for everybody, so if you choose to insult somebody in the world, there will be a record of it. Just be careful. All right, and so today's schedules, we're starting at like 3:03, and so we'll go to 5:03, but we're going to have it about 2 hours. That's how long we think it'll take. The last quarter of the time, and it may be shorter than that. We don't have to stretch it to the full 5 o'clock hour, but the last chunk of time will be spent focusing on the redistricting tools themselves and walking through some demonstrations on those. In the interim, we'll have a bunch of conversations and Q&A. Okay. The County of Santa Barbara has one of the most extensive processes for going through the redistricting process that involves many public hearings, and today is going to be one of the, I believe there's 7 pre-map and 7 post-map hearings, if I recall correctly. We have a full independent redistricting commission that will make the final decisions, and that independent redistricting commission needs to hear from folks. So we have been actively working to let people know about meetings like this to give them a chance to participate. And as noted on here, we have 3 additional meetings that are coming up, one on July 12th, from 6:15 till 8:15 in the city of Lompoc, and then Wednesday, August 4th in Santa Maria, and Thursday, August 12th in Solvang. So we'll be dotting ourselves all over the county trying to make these meetings as accessible as possible to the public and go where the people are. So this is my one big slide, so I'm going to really drain it for all it's worth here. Today's conversation and the workshops in general are a little bit different than the other meetings that are held by the commission because we try to have a more informal format to have conversations. And the concept of redistricting is esoteric. It's something you only do once every 10 years. It's kind of like buying a house. There's a lot of art to it, but you don't really get that familiar with it unless you're a real estate agent. Same thing with redistricting. So our goal is to hear from experts like Shalise, who has extensive expertise in this area, and learn from them, right? So our goal is teach you about redistricting, and then once you now know enough about the redistricting process to be able to offer extensive, thoughtful feedback and be empowered with that information, then we turn the tables and you talk to the experts. You speak to the demographers, you speak to the commissioners who will be taking hearing testimony, and provide them information on communities of interest, where lines should be, what maps you like and don't like as those maps begin to form in October. And ultimately, the experts will listen to you. That's the goal of public outreach and the goal of engagement. Finally, we'll be going into mapping tools training today. So unlike a lot of public policy challenges, this is one of those great complex challenges that we actually give the public the exact same tools that the experts have in terms of being able to go in and map and draw and participate in the solution. So it's actually a really exciting public policy challenge to address because we get to really democratize the tool sets that are available to help the public participate in the process. And lastly, our hope is that for those who participate in the conversation today, that you're going to leave here empowered, right? You're going to understand more about redistricting than you certainly knew a week ago. Number two, you will have been empowered with a bunch of technology information on how to use either mapping tools that are online or some paper tools that we have in the back of the room. With all that empowerment, you'll be able to follow along with the redistricting process, or perhaps even better, contribute maps and draw maps and submit maps with your ideas of how to best represent the good people of Santa Barbara County. A couple other just notes real quick. We have cookies and water in the back to stay hydrated and to ensure you have sufficient sugar levels to be active participants in the conversation. Restrooms are out to the right and down a little ways in the building that's kind of in the center of the court there. And I think that covers it for our details on that front. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shalise, and she's going to start talking to you about redistricting.
Redistricting happens once every 10 years, so it's something that you'll forget about and then revisit it 10 years from now and then have to learn it all over again. And also likely the rules will change because the rules have definitely changed significantly since the last time we've done redistricting. But a gentleman just came up and said, "What is redistricting?" I couldn't get him interested in coming in. I think he had better things to do. But I told him, come to one of our meetings. But he said, what is redistricting? And redistricting is redrawing the lines to match where the population now resides. So we have 5 supervisors who represent the county. And each of those we will be dividing the county into 5 equal segments. And then those voters that live within a particular district will choose one of their own to represent them on the board. Why should I get involved? It seems like it's such far removed, but actually, as we all know, local government has the most impact on us. And especially those communities that rely on many of the county services, and in the unincorporated areas, that's their first go-to, is the county board of supervisors. So these are the people who are making decisions about fire safety, about your transportation, about how your dollars are spent, about public safety. And it's important that your diverse community and someone who actually knows your community is on the board. So that's the goal, is to draw lines that really reflect the diverse community, and so that also our underrepresented communities and our lower turnout communities have a voice on the board. As Ryder said, redistricting looks different, way different than it did 10 years ago, and it looks even more different in Santa Barbara County. So for most counties, there will be 4 public hearings and they'll be adopting a map. So because of Measure G, and we're going to talk about that coming up, but we have this extensive process for public hearings where the goal and the intent of the drafters of Measure G was to make sure that the map drawing was placed in the hands as much as possible as the public, to get as much public input. So instead of, whereas other counties would be doing 2 public hearings before the maps are drawn, we'll be doing 7 before the maps are drawn and 7 after the maps are drawn. To help you in drawing those maps, NDC, who is a demographer, I work for NDC, I'm a senior consultant. We've been serving cities and counties for over 40 years. Since the California Voting Rights Act was enacted in 2001, we've assisted 368 jurisdictions in converting from a at-large election system to a by-district election system. And now we're helping most of those jurisdictions now rebalance their lines to match the 2020 census data. As part of this process, you'll be using tools, and we'll be giving you data, and we'll be giving you estimated data to help you in start drawing the maps now, because as most of you are aware, the census data is delayed. So normally we would have it by now. We should have received it last April if the world was normal, but we don't have it yet. We will be getting census data on August 16th. And on August 16th, we'll that data that we'll be receiving will be in what is called legacy format. So you may have heard in all the press releases that the states will get their information from the federal census on September 30th. That still holds true, but we'll be getting the raw data on August 16th that we can start working with. And when I say we can start working with, I mean the state can start working with it, because what the state needs to do at that point is reassign all of the state incarcerated prisoners to their home locations, and they will actually zero out the state prisons. So there's zero population, and they'll be assigned to as many home addresses as what they can. So we'll be providing that census data, some estimated census data now. When we have the state adjusted data, then we'll be providing that. Hopefully you'll be already drawing maps, and you can go ahead and just adjust your boundaries if you need to, if our estimates were too far off. After we get the census data in, we'll start reviewing maps in, I think it's October, November. We'll start reviewing maps, and that's when it'll get really fun at these workshops. But that will go really quickly because we have a deadline of December 15th to do it all. So we're encouraging you all, glad you're here. I hope you share with your communities, share with your neighbors that this is an opportunity for you to be involved directly in drawing maps. Those people who want their voices heard, I can tell you the best way to do it is submit a map. We don't weed out any maps. We don't screen any maps. Any map that is submitted is professionally produced by NDC and provided on just as if it were a map that were produced by a consultant or a map produced by someone who just drew it out on a cocktail napkin. They will all look the same. They'll be professionally produced with a set of demographic summary showing the population and socioeconomic data for each of the districts that was drawn in that particular map. I failed to update my slide. This says mapping tools will be released soon. They are released and they are available. Talked about Measure G, and you've already met some of your commissioners. But Measure G, the intent of it, as I mentioned, was to have a completely independent, transparent, nonpartisan process. So this commission, some of the commissioners you met here today are on that commission. They will be the ones that adopt the final map. So it will not go to the County Board of Supervisors. What happened in past years, and for many counties across the state, what would happen is the county would just have staff members form a little internal committee and readjust the lines with not much input from the public. So this is an independent commission, and that term is very important because independent commission means that the commission actually adopts the map without input from the Board of Supervisors. There are two other types of commissions that exist under the law: advisory and hybrid. In those cases, the board, in this instance, the Board of Supervisors would have adopted the map. That's not the case here. The commissioners have the final say. And here is a listing of all of our commissioners. There's information on the website about the appointment process. I know there's been a lot said about the appointment process, and we started off with a pool of 45 that this commission had very little control over, and we're not sure exactly how that was selected. We think it was pretty much random. And then this commission, the initial commissioners were tasked with trying to build the commission that matched the demographics of the community. And because the pool was randomly selected at first, or however it was selected at first by the county recorder, it was very difficult from the pool to match the demographics, and we're still wrestling with that with our vacancy in the 5th district. You've already received all this information, 7 hearings before, 7 hearings after. You draw the maps, we look at the initial maps, and then we'll be adopting by December 15th. This is probably the most important slide in the deck. Some of you have heard of the Fair Maps Act. The Fair Maps Act became effective in January of 2020, and what it did is it set forth very specific criteria that must be used in drawing the maps. And not only did it set forth the criteria that must be used, it also prioritized the criteria. So in the past, some of this existed in the statute, but it said shall consider, and now it's a mandate that that center column be followed in order of priority. So on the left-hand column are the federal laws that we must abide with. The first one being equal population, and then, as I mentioned, the state added another layer on that to zero out the state prisons and reassign those prisoners to their home addresses. When we're talking about the Federal Voting Rights Act, still in that left column, we're talking about avoiding maps that are drawn in a way that would dilute the voting strength of your protected class citizens. So when we're talking about protected class groups or protected class communities, those are communities or those are people whose voting strength has been marginalized throughout history. And one of those ways is there's been a certain segment of our community that speaks a different language than English and has not always had voting materials available in their native language. So we have, for example, our Latinx community that is a minority language, language minority community. So we can't draw ways that would dilute the voting rights of that protected class group. And also, we can't draw lines that are solely based on race. Excuse me. This is where I hand the microphone to Daniel. So while race can be a factor when you're drawing the lines, it should not be the predominant or only factor. Instead, look at language spoken at home, culture, history of a particular community. If they happen to be the same race, then that defines a community. That's what you need to look at when you're looking to define a community. I say that because there's much focus on getting a district that will have a higher percentage of your protected class groups. So just be mindful when you're looking at those communities, see if that community is truly combined by other factors, just in addition to ethnicity and race. And then the center column is the state law. And we've also we combined it with Measure G. When Measure G was written, actually the state law was not in place, it was just drafted. And so the drafters of Measure G tried to follow as much as possible as the draft of the Fair Maps. But the Fair Maps Act evolved before it was actually adopted. So it's a little bit different. So we've combined them here, and that's our challenge, is to still meet both Measure G and the Fair Maps Act. They're very close. It mentions the California Voting Rights Act, and the California Voting Rights Act actually does not guide us on how we draw the districts. It mostly is aimed at at-large districts and election systems that may dilute the voting strength of your protected class group. So once you have by-districts, then you are no longer subject to a violation under the California Voting Rights Act. So you hear a lot of people refer to the CVRA, and actually the applicable act in redistricting is more the Fair Maps Act. And then going down below are all those that are listed in the Fair Maps Act that you must have, each district must be geographically contiguous, meaning that if there's waterways, you need to be able to cross over those waterways by a bridge or a ferry service or some regular means of transportation over the waterway. One solid border you can't have, except for with the exception of the Channel Islands. That's unavoidable. but they are unpopulated, so it's not a big factor here. Then undivided neighborhoods, and that's the communities of interest we're talking about. So if there's a particular geographical area that shares the same concerns, you want to make sure you draw the lines so that they are in a single district as much as possible. Undivided cities and census designated places. So census designated places are those unincorporated cities that you hear of, or different areas, and you all know what those are, or many of those that are in the community. Easily identifiable boundaries, major freeways, natural and man-made landmarks, mountain ranges, those type of things are easily identifiable boundaries where you could describe your district. And compactness. Compactness, oftentimes your map will not look compact, and just be warned that your district sizes are going to look very different on the map. Obviously, because you have some areas that are not populated, that are very sparsely populated, and some areas that are very densely populated. Some people get stuck on that thinking, oh, my district's so small. But it's actually equal population. We're talking equal population, by the way, we're talking total people. Not just those who are voters, and not just those who are U.S. citizens, all people. And then topography, geography, and cohesiveness. That's a throw-in from Measure G, and it's kind of covered in all of the above as well. Other traditional criteria that we consider after we've met all those is future population growth. So if you know an area that is growing or will be growing, you could possibly slightly underpopulate that area, but only within a certain margin. So in the end, equal population is presumptively constitutional if there's a less than 10% difference between your least populated district and your greatest populated district. So we want to make sure that we are within that 10%. And try not to get too close to the 10% because, as I mentioned, we're just giving you estimates now, and you want to have some room to be able to allow for some, as our President Doug Johnson says, the only thing I can tell you about estimates is they will be wrong. And we want to minimize the amount of the number of voters that are shifted from a different election year than what they are presently assigned. So if someone is expecting to go vote for their supervisor in 2022 because the last time they voted was 2018, we want to try avoid shifting them into a district that is assigned a 2024 year, because then it would be 6 years since they've been able to elect a board of supervisors. And it's going to happen. It will happen. It's just if we can minimize that. That's not in the statute, but that's something that's good to achieve. And Measure G requires that we cannot consider the residents, the home addresses of any of the incumbents. So that's particular to Measure G. So we don't even know the addresses of the incumbents, and it won't be listed or discussed in any of the meetings. And then we can't draw lines to favor any political party or potential candidate. Here are what we estimate the 2020 population is going to be if the map today, this is for the map today. This is what we believe is going to be. And you can see over here, this is where you look at the total deviation. So it's 12. I mentioned it has to be under 10. And the way to do that simple math is I find the greatest populated, and I add it to the least populated. Ignore the minus and the positive signs, and then you get the 12%. So I can see that we can't adopt this map as it is if our estimated population numbers hold true. Okay. The estimated population numbers come partly from the American Community Survey. And the American Community Survey is, and thanks for asking that question, that's the most common question we get asked. But we aren't using exactly the American Community Survey numbers because they don't do a good job of estimating group quarters. So what we take is the growth rate and assign it to those areas. And there's an entire methodology that's used. I'm very much simplifying it. But if you go to ndcresearch.com, it's all spelled out.
I think the thing to clarify there is that those population estimates are indeed not an official source, other than official in that they're NDC's particular estimates from their methodology. And it's somewhat unique, I believe, this year that we're coming up with some estimates, but because of the delay in the census, we're trying to compensate for that and empower the public as early as possible by using at least some estimated data to enable some of the tools that are going to be presented today as part of the process.
Yes. This does. Thanks for asking that question. I know that's a question that is still up in the air. So we have a federal prison in Lompoc. These numbers are given to us by the state. The state, part of the numbers that we use and adjust are given to us from the state, and they're using those. Right now, they have not zeroed out the federal prisons, but we believe they're going to. But they will not tell us that they're going to. So, yeah, it's an unknown. We just had a staff meeting yesterday afternoon about this. They're still not giving us a direct answer. But these numbers do. So if you're drawing a district, your district that has Lompoc in it, you may want to have it be maybe a little bit over the ideal population so that when that federal prison is zeroed out, then you'll still have enough in there. Yeah. It doesn't include the state, any state incarcerated facilities, though. I'm not sure that there are. Yeah. It includes county jail population. Those aren't zeroed out.
County population
They stay. Yeah.
The only adjustments we're probably looking at in our would be if the federal numbers get shifted.
Right.
Could you repeat that for the
So-
audio recording?
So what Chair Morris had pointed out is that the only thing that may affect these numbers dramatically, fingers crossed, is the federal prison once they make that decision to zero them out. The question was, do we know the general population of the federal prison? And I was going to look that up, and I don't. Yeah.
We'll ask Google real quick and get an
Yeah,
answer.
it seemed like when I did work in Lompoc a couple years ago, that's about what it was. And just so, the laws were different when we did the districting for Lompoc, and the way the laws were written then is you could zero out. And that may just be what needs to happen in this case.
When you refer to doing the districting in Lompoc, you're speaking specifically of doing that city's districting
That city's-
information
that
process.
city's, right,
And
thank you.
NDC was involved with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I clarify actually one other thing you said too? Because we talked about this 10% threshold and whether or not that deviation was allowable or not. And then I think you said that given this number here, the maps as they are now are actually population balanced, or no, they're not. So
They're
definitely
not.
something's going to have to, well, if this estimated data were the real data, we would definitely have to move some lines in order to achieve the balance.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, you're not done. I wanted to just mention what the American Community Survey data is, because I know for me, first coming into this profession, I was confused about that. And I'm old enough to remember when the census was delivered, some of us would get the long form census and some of us would get the short form census, and that no longer happens. Everyone gets the short form. So instead they put in place the American Community Survey, and they send folks a very lengthy survey, about 1 in every 14 households every 5 years gets one of these surveys. And it has so much information on there about ethnicity and language spoken at home, even to the number of toilets in your house, education levels, all of the socioeconomic data that you want. It's kind of fun to Google that and see what those American Community Survey questions are. And you think, wow, this seems pretty intrusive. And you are required by law to respond. And what they do is they give you they provide a 5-year span of data, because they don't hit the same community every year and say this is our 5 year. So they will not call it a 5-year estimate. But the data that we use is the most recent data, and it covers from the years 2015 to 2019. So when we're talking citizen voting age population, that comes from the American Community Survey. That is a part of the federal census, but that's part of those surveys that are sent out. So they are very much estimates. But when we're looking at citizen voting age population, that's a very important category, because when the courts are looking at your maps, if they're ever challenged, to see if you did a good job at protecting the voting strength of your protected class groups. They will look at the citizen voting age population. So those are individuals who are 18 years of age and U.S. citizens. They don't necessarily need to be registered voters, but they are 18 years of age and U.S. citizens. And this is where this is the line that they will most say if they were looking at the Hispanic or Latino community. In this change, in this case, those two terms are interchangeable. Okay, because that's how it's asked on the by the federal census. So you can see that our District 5 has 58%. So that for those representatives of that community, they like to see those numbers because they would have majority vote if they all voted the same way, which is a big if, but if they all voted the same way, they could elect someone from their community. So these are the numbers that folks will be focusing on when they're submitting maps.
So the Brain Trust at Trippepi Smith whipped out 1,095 as the population of the Lompoc Federal Prison.
Oh, okay. Not as much as we thought. Thank you.
And that's off their website? Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh,
1622 according to the federal website and 1095 according to their own website. Well, we read it on the internet, so we know it's true no matter what.
That's right. So we're for today's workshop, we want to accomplish a couple things. We really want to hear from you about what defines your communities of interest, and the best way to do that is draw it on a map, and then describe what it is. You know, say, hey, this is my neighborhood. This is why it makes sense that this neighborhood be kept in a single district. Or you can draw a larger area, maybe a couple of cities, saying these are two cities that are very much have similar characteristics that should be in the same district. And we're talking. This definition is actually in the statute. So it is a contiguous population that must be kept in a single district for its fair and equitable representation. So it's for its fair and effective representation, I should say. So there are some times when you have like-minded communities, but there could be reasons why it makes sense not to put them in the same, keep them in a single district. I want to hear from you. How do you find your community? Focus on neighborhoods. That's the most common place to start. What are your shared concerns? Are there safety issues? Are there water issues? Are there traffic issues? Or do you all just, have similar interests, similar places where you congregate, or similar types of communities or types of focus in your communities? And if you're affected by certain county decisions, that would certainly align you as a community of interest. Describe your community. We really need to hear that because the way the Fair Maps Act is written, we want to get a lot of public testimony so that we can, if someone were to say, why did you draw the lines they were, then we have information that we can present that we've heard from the public. This is what makes sense to the public, and this is why this community was drawn this way. And please draw a map. Whatever way is comfortable for you, we want you to draw a map. If you haven't had a chance to visit our website, please visit our website. If you have input on the website, email us at the bottom number, email address. If there's something that doesn't make sense to you, if there's a way we can help explain something, let us know. Because if you have that answer or that question, someone else probably does too. And it's our goal to try to make this as user-friendly as possible. It's kind of a foreign concept, redistricting is, and we're stuck in the mix already. So it's great to get fresh eyes to hear from you on this. And then we want to know who else should we contact. If you're part of a homeowners association or some kind of a service club, a different community, if you have a poker club, let us know. I mean, we would love to. There's commissioners that have already have plans to go out and speak to, and already have gone out to speak to various groups, and we're ready and able and wanting to do that so we can get more people involved. There's a way to enter to look on our website to see if we already have your organization on our list, and if not, you can just add it there. And questions and answers.
Yeah, so this is our question and answer time, but I want to jump back real quick. Shalise talked about draw a map. So for people who end up watching this later at home, we have these maps available to download in PDF format on the website, I believe. For those that are here today, I see some of you have picked up the maps, which are great. They're on the back counter there next to the cookies, conveniently enough. Really, while those maps are designed, we'll discuss later kind of the technical tools that exist and how you can use that as a non-digital format to try to draw population-balanced districts. They are also just a great way to look at a map and be able to say, hey, these areas are of communities of interest, right? And circle them or put boxes around them or things along those lines. I think, and although we'll get into this a little bit later, it just dovetails nicely with Shalise's comment. I believe those maps, you'll see boxes on them, and all the boxes are census tracts, correct?
I actually have a slide to walk through, but I do want you to pick up maps, but note that there are two different maps, so they look very much the same. And one of them is marked, has XL and population units, so you don't need that map if you don't want to use XL, but if you want to use XL to help do your counts, get both. So if
Yes, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to rush us into the tools because I know we're going to maintain that distinct last part of the conversation today, but I just wanted to provide some context on when we say a map, we aren't looking for you to go to the grocery store, pick up a Santa Barbara County map and start drawing on it necessarily. We have some maps available for free, so it should cost you nothing but the ink in your printer.
Yeah, and to answer your question, what we've done is we have taken the county and created population units. So they don't always follow a census tract, and they don't always follow a census designated places, but for the most part they do. And we've given you the population count of that particular population unit. So you can actually draw the map and add up all of the population counts that are within a particular district that you're interested in. So that's just a very simple way to get started. Or to end. I mean, all you have to do is take a picture of the map that you've drawn and submit it. Take a picture with your cell phone, email it to us, and you're done. And we'll professionally produce it for you and show it to you. On the back side of the map, we realize it gets really small. It's in the south part of the county. So this is just a blow up of the detail of South County.
So we'll dive some more into those maps when Shalise goes over the tools. But to Shalise's point, and really the point of a workshop is to have a less formal environment in which to go back and forth and ask questions and have them answered, particularly by an expert like Shalise, who has many years of experience with this and has worked with dozens of agencies. So I will invite any members of the public or commissioners for that matter to ask any question. All I ask is you let me get over to you with a microphone so I can hold it and we can record it for the audio quality purposes of this meeting. Is there anybody who has a question about what the heck is going on or what they just heard or some other element? Excellent. Hang on one second. Thank you for saving me.
My question has to do with the number of districts. I know we have 5 supervisors, and there are 5 districts currently. Would there ever be a time where the population would mandate a 6th district or a 7th district potentially, or is it written in stone 5 districts, and why is that? Is it just for somebody to be able to win an argument 3-2 kind of situation, or what?
The county's not a charter county, and so it's designated as 5, and I hope I'm getting this correct, but this is my understanding. So it would take a vote to change that.
And I assume that if they did, they'd want to change to something that's an odd number so they could not have a tie, for the obvious point.
Yeah, typical is 5, but we see some 7s.
We had a very small city that I think has a population of about 25,000, and they went to 7 districts when they decided to go to districts instead of 5 more traditionally, so they ended up with very small districts.
Yeah,
Very small districts.
It's a good question, because when a lot of the jurisdictions were being sued under the California Voting Rights Act, they had the opportunity to switch without a vote. And so a lot of them took advantage of that and switched their number of seats, or they created maybe a directly elected mayor in this case of a city. So, I mean, that's a very valid question, because there were a lot of changes that happened when you're transitioning from an at-large to a by-district system. But this is a different process than that.
Thank you for getting us rolling. Who else has a question? Shalise is so effective.
I just had a question about the city districts, and I know it was saying that we are going to try to leave the cities together, but we take into consideration the city districts as well. And what about Goleta, since they're right in that process?
Yeah, that's the thing is, all of the cities are that have districts, not all of them have districts, are going through this process and have a later deadline to adopt than the county. So they will adopt by April 17th. So if you try to follow their existing districts, just know they may change and will likely change. Some maybe not much, but so I wouldn't get too stuck on the city's current districts, because then they could switch it up on you and change them.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Just a comment. One of the questions in our presentation that we had was, do you have to be a registered voter to draw a map, and do you have to live in the county of Santa Barbara? For instance, somebody has a business in Santa Barbara County, but they live in SLO.
Mm-hmm. No, anyone can submit and draw a map. We ask that you identify yourself and you give us contact information, because what'll happen sometimes is I'll get a map and it'll be almost perfect, but it will have some unassigned areas. Unknowingly, the person submitted it and had unassigned areas. So in that case, I can call them and say, was this your intention? Because the map is not, we can't adopt it legally as it is right now, or do you want to make these tweaks and we can work with that person? Also, sometimes they'll get the population wrong, and it will just be slightly out of equal population. And in that case, I can contact them and say, hey, it's your map is not population balanced. It's going to be in the category of not population balanced. And if you want to make some tweaks to make it population balanced, then when the commission sees it, it won't have this big not population balanced on top when it's so close. So someone could submit a map anonymously. We'd rather you use a name and a real contact person so that we can contact you just for those purposes. But there's no restriction that they have to be residents. I've worked for other jurisdictions that have asked that submitters identify if they are, because they wanted to give, I guess, more weight to they felt someone who knew the community. But what happens in the end is the maps will be all drawn up and they'll just be given a number. And you'll be surprised. Nobody cares who submitted the map. If the map's a good map, it rises to the top. And who cares? I mean, oftentimes it's forgotten who submitted it, unless they're just very vocal and pushing their map. But sometimes I get submitters saying, I didn't see my map. I said, let me walk it through. Oh, no, it's right here. Oh, yeah, that is my map. Because it just looks different than when it's professionally produced, but it's the same lines. We keep a list of who submitted the maps, and it all is public record. But we don't assign the names to it because we want all the maps treated equally, given equal consideration by the commission.
Any other questions? Excellent. Gold star.
Once you submit a map, can you edit it? Or like you said, if you had contacted somebody, do they have to resubmit a new map?
It depends on how far down the process we are, and that has happened. Someone has submitted a map, and then just within a day or two, they said, oh, no, I submitted the wrong one, or I thought of another change. If we haven't published it and someone else already hasn't picked it up, commission hasn't talked about it, if it hasn't been published already, then we'll just switch it out. Well, you can submit more than one map, but we're really asking you to pick your top 2 or 3, because if you're submitting 5, 6, 7 maps. If you can't decide which one you like the best, do you think the 11 people are going to be able to? You want them to focus on the map you think is the best one. And so draw as many as you want, and then just wait and submit until the one you think, or the 1 or 2 or 3 that is the best fit. That's when you want to submit, because you don't want all the other noise. You know, focus in on that map. Mm-hmm.
How are the population units decided on, like the boundaries of them?
So this is the data that came from the American Community Survey. This is the estimated population that we're using. So they will slightly change, but this all comes from the census data.
I don't mean the numbers.
Oh,
I mean the boundaries.
The boundaries?
Yeah.
In most cases, they're census tracts. And layered on top of that, following census designated places and cities. So that, yeah, if you know, you're able, and it's difficult, so you want to try to minimize the amount, but if you absolutely want to split one of these population units, just draw whatever street you want to split it on, and you can draw your map that way. You won't know the exact population, but unless you're using one of the online tools. So when you're doing the online tools, you won't be using these population units. This is just for ease. If we were to put census block is the least level of population count, this map would be a mess. You would not be able to read anything. And so for ease and be able to create these maps, this is just a simpler tool to use. But if you don't like the where we drew those lines, then you can, it's difficult to split a census block. So in fact, we can't, in most cases, cannot split a census block unless it's an unpopulated census block, because we have to be able to attest that we've used official census data. So if you are splitting a census block, then we can't go, it's very difficult with very, very few exceptions for us to split a census block and say there's this many people on this side and this many people on this side.
So to clarify the language there, census tract is bigger, and then census block is units of census tracts?
Yeah, so it actually goes census tract, census block group, and then census block.
Well, that's clear and obvious.
And the confusing thing is there's not a standard. But if you had a perfectly gridded city with what you think of as city block that you walk around the block, that's a census block. But it's not always that case. Sometimes you'll see giant census blocks because they're sparsely populated, or you'll see a very weird shaped census block. And I'm glad we're talking about this, because when we get into using the mapping tools, and this is what trips everyone up, because we have to use the census block geography. You're drawing your tool, you're drawing your map, and you want this perfect line like this. And so you use the tool and you draw this perfect line, and when the map colors in what you just drew, it's like this. And you're like, what the heck? You start over. This is my line. It draws it in. It's like this. Because it's following the geography. You've touched a census block, and it's going to fill in that entire census block. And it may be a weird shaped census block. So just know you've done it correctly, and it has to be like that. So you'll be drawing your straight line. It's not going to be exactly straight because it's following the census block geography, but it's getting that census block that you touched. And that works for both the online both of the tools online, the simple one and the calipers. The simple one is District R, and the caliper one. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. So raucous amount of Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
Very well. So at this time, we would normally break in, take like a 15-minute break and have some conversations about communities of interest to kind of get the palette going and thinking about communities of interest. And then we come out of that 15 minutes and we ask you to talk about your communities of interest and share some of the ideas you have, and we document them up here on a whiteboard, invite other folks to comment, go around with the mic and hear some additional commentary about communities of interest for anything that wasn't properly expressed, and then we'd go into the tools. As noted here in this fancy slide. So I think the one question I have just procedurally, because we have a quorum of the commission here, Shalise, so how does that affect our ability to have some of these conversations?
I think as long I think we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good. I just want to double check.
I had a past life as a city official, a city clerk, and an elections official. So that's why Ryder is deferring to me on what is known as the Brown Act, and it's a laws about transparency and what's discussed. But it is agendized on the and it's just discussion. It's not coming to a consensus. So I think we're okay.
We're a small enough group today that we may just have that.
That may be better for this group.
Particularly if the commissioners kind of listen. There's probably not enough other folks that divide into more.
Agreed. I was agreeing. I was my. I'm with you on that one. All right, very good. So the great news, especially for the non-commissioners in the room, is you are speaking right to your commissioners today. So congratulations, straight to power. So with that, we're gonna. Shalise will continue to walk around and answer questions. I will walk around and do my best to answer questions. We would love you to turn to your peers, your friends, your neighbors here in Santa Barbara County, and just have a conversation about this whole process, communities of interest, and then, like I said, about 15 minutes, we're going to come back and put a microphone in your face and say, so what did you come up with? What kind of communities of interest did you identify? What questions are still lingering in your head that you want to contemplate, or how are you going to approach this process? So with that, commence conversation.
I'm going through these next slides just very quickly, just so you can, in your brain, know what tools we have. But I think it's better if we walk through how to access the tools the way you would from home. So we have our story map, and the story map is, it's a replacement for PowerPoint. So it's a series of maps that are downloaded, and as you scroll through story map, you're seeing this various maps that are coming up just to see various different geography of different maps that exist in the world out there. So for example, your special districts, the existing supervisorial districts, city council districts, all different, any type of map that's out there, you're able to download into story map, and just as you scroll down through it's like a one-page. For example, if you were on a web page, you were scroll down through it, all these maps would populate as you scroll, and then you gives you different categories and you click. The simple map review tool, I will be showing you this tool because it's going to answer a lot of the questions that you had about those paper maps. And it's really meant to be used in conjunction with the paper maps, because you can zoom in very closely and see the exact street names. And you can activate the population unit, the counts that are on these paper maps. So some of you were trying to guess what street that was, or what population unit followed what street. When you have your tool open to the interactive map viewer, you're going to be able to click on the population units, and you're going to see those population counts and the unit outlines, and you'll be able to zoom in and see the underlying streets. Also on this map, once maps start to be submitted, they'll be downloaded into this tool.
Where do we find that?
I'm going to go through these slides, and then I'm jumping over to the actual website and walk you through how to open them. Okay. Paper maps that you have in the back. This one has the population counts. Its sister map is the one that has those same population units, but numbered 1 through 89. And you're going to use those with an Excel spreadsheet if you want the Excel spreadsheet to calculate. I'll show you that too. District R, I'll show you how to access that. This is the one, the paintbrush tool, and I think it's the one that Spencer used to draw that, the Isla Vista map. And then the more complex calipers, Maptitude Online tool. Now I'm going to jump over to the website and show you where you find everything. It's drawsantabarbaracounty.org. It'll bring you to the welcome page. When you scroll down, you can see that story map I talked about, the one that has all the maps, has the interactive map review page, current supervisorial districts, the demographic summary of this existing. These are all repeated on the Draw a Map tool page. Okay, I just wanted to show you they are in a couple places. The calendar of upcoming meetings, The draw map, I'm going to go back to, once we get when we get draft maps submitted, they'll be populated here. And each of them will come with a demographic summary. So the demographic summary will be accompanying each map once they start getting submitted. Some frequently asked questions, additional resources, and this is where you let us know about other people to contact. And if you want to subscribe to be on a notification list, you can subscribe here. The draw map tool tab is the one we're going to use today. We start basically from the most simple tools to the more sophisticated down the end. The paper maps are the ones that you saw that you have on the back table. You can see English is in blue here. That means it's a link, and it's going to open up that paper map. I have it opened. This is the map. Get it bigger. And you can see that these are the population numbers. So if you want to do the map yourself, so say, Spencer, if you wanted to draw the area that you drew, you could draw it in. But because it's so detailed in that particular area, you might want to go to page 2 where we have a blown up of that. And you could start doing the math yourself of what you were drawing in, whatever made sense for these population units. That's the most simple form of how to submit. Accompanying that is the when we talk about with the population ID numbers. It's the same map, but instead of the population counts, it's numbered 1 through 89. Here's 1, 2, 3, and on and on and on. Once you've drawn your map, if you want to use the Excel spreadsheet, this is when you would use this. If you want to use the Excel to do your counts, that's the only time you would use this map. So if you're not using Excel, don't even pick up one of these maps because it'll just confuse you. But if you want to use the Excel spreadsheet, that's when you would use this map. Then after you've drawn everything in, you go to your Excel spreadsheet. I'll show you where that is. So right here it says that the paper maps with the Excel spreadsheet, and you're using the paper map with the population unit ID numbers I just showed you, and then the Excel spreadsheet in English, you would click right there. I already have it opened, so I'm going to save you the time. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to show you. We're going to work on getting it so it opens automatically in Excel, but what it does is it opens to a Dropbox page. So it makes it a little bit more complicated. You can see it's not in Excel workable format. You go to this button, this download button. Click on it and do a direct download. And at the bottom of your screen, it's going to show up here. When you click on that, it will open up in Excel. The thing that's going to trip everyone up right here is you have to enable editing because you're like, I can't enter my numbers. Make sure you click enable editing. Important thing to know about this is these 3 tabs at the bottom. First one are your instructions that tell you what to do. Can read those. I've explained those to you. And then your assignments. So now we have our assignments on the screen. Oh, I tried to make that bigger, but that didn't work. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you can see what it is. So this is okay, I noticed that on for some it doesn't. That enable editing doesn't always come up. Okay. Oh, it should be enabled then. Yeah. If it doesn't come up, then you should be able to enable it. Click on the assignments tab at the bottom here. And say that I drew a map, and when I drew the map from that population unit ID numbers that are numbered 1 through 89, my districts 1 through 30 were all happened to be in District 1. So I would go here and I'd see population unit number 1 through 30 in this second column. Now, you're going to appreciate me telling you this tip. One thing that's going to mess you up, when you get down into the bigger numbers, you're going to say, oh, my unit number 20 on my paper map is in District 1. So you're going to go down here to 20 and put 1. This is the worksheet's number. You want to go to the population unit number. And 20 is not even on the page. Does this make sense? I can guarantee you're going to do that at least once. So make sure, don't look at those. Look at your population unit number. And if you had 1 through 15 in District 1, you're going to assign District 1 here. Okay? So I did, my district for this test. I think I bragged at the last meeting that I did, okay, I'll do 1 through 30. And I'm all in District 1. And I end up being population balanced. That'll never happen, but it did. So then okay, let me see how close I'm being to population balance. I'm going to go to this tab at the bottom, the right, and look at my results. Okay, I think I was population balanced. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I did more than 1 through 30. I'm not population. It was must have been more than 1 through 30, because you can see I'm I'm only at I'm over. Way over. This must have been a different jurisdiction I was bragging about. So you can see I have way too many in District 1. Again, we're looking for 89,300, and I am way over, so I'm going to have to take some out of District 1. I'm actually 52% over. So, yeah. No, it wasn't 1 through 30. So maybe I need to assign these to a different district. Now, let's see. Okay. Did a little bit better. Now I'm under in my District 1. I'm under by 25,000. In my District 2, I'm under by 16,000, so I need to add more to each of those districts. Does everyone get the basic idea? Okay. And then again, the citizen voting age population is important when you're looking at your protected class groups. So for the county, Hispanic, Black, and Asian are the ones we're concerned with, and here's where you'd see the percentages of how we did for each of those districts. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, that's the Excel spreadsheet. You can just submit the Excel spreadsheet, not even your map. We'll be able to draw the map from that. Okay, any questions on that? This is the
tool doesn't draw the map for you?
No, you could still submit your paper map. But no, this is just a simple way to do the math and to find out the citizen voting age population. It's a workaround. It's a workaround for cities who could not afford the tools, the greater tools. So those cities that can afford the tens of thousands of dollars that the other online tools cost, this is a workaround for them. It gives them something as opposed to nothing. And actually, you can get pretty effective maps through doing that too. Okay, that covers our paper maps. And now let's go to our District R tool. Yes.
Just a quick note, for people who are not getting the enable editing, they need to go to Tools, Protection, and Unprotect the sheet.
Okay, so and we'll make a note of that, and we'll try to fix that, Claire. Yeah. There are some. Okay, there are certain protected fields. So there are certain protected fields. The ones in yellow should not be protected, but you are able to unprotect it, and there's not a password required. So just be careful you don't mess up your calculations. What the question was is, is, as you saw in my demonstration, when I opened Excel, I had to enable editing. In some cases, that prompt doesn't automatically come up. So the workaround that Vice Chair Turley found was to go into Tools, Protection, and do Unprotect. And then she was able to, but you want to be careful, don't mess up your formulas.
I don't know if anyone else has an iPad, but with the iPad, the Excel won't drop down.
Okay, so this is not successful on an iPad is what we're hearing. Yeah, yeah. I've not tried it on an iPad. So, okay. We're back to the Draw a Map page at the website. And I am going to open up District R. District R is designed for drawing neighborhoods. You can draw an entire district by it. So the thing to remember as you're going into District R is this tag, SB County, because it's going to ask you, once you've drawn your perfect map or your perfect neighborhood, to tag it. So just make sure you pay attention to that SB County, because it's going to ask you to tag it. And that way they'll all populate here under this community submitted maps. But say you want to, okay, I'm going to take a stab at drawing all 5 supervisorial districts. And sometimes we get the question of, what if you just do quadrants? You know, can't we just, do quadrants? Which is kind of hard with 5, but, you get the idea. I'm clicking on the pan feature so I can move the map down and get it to a better position on my page. Okay. I used the tools over here to zoom in and out. So I'm always tempted, because I have a touch screen, to zoom in and out with my touch screen. But try not to do that, because it will it isn't always successful. So say I'm ready to draw a district. I'm going to click on the paintbrush. And you can see I can control the brush size. So you consider, just like if you pick up a paintbrush that is a big paintbrush and you start drawing, it's going to do a wide swath. Let's do that let's just make it a little bit bigger. It's chosen the color for me. For my first one, it's going to be teal. But let's just, for the sake of conversation, try to do quadrants. Let's start painting. I'm going to click on the paintbrush. It grays it until I click that. And what it's done is this is broad paintbrush, so it's touching a lot of census blocks, right? Because it's a big paintbrush, so it's covered a lot of census blocks. But we're doing this quickly. We just want to get an idea. I'm hovering, it's turning gray. I'm clicking, it's coloring. Oh, I'm overpopulated, but let's start there. That's not a bad start. Let's go to my next one. Different color. That's how you start the next district. Let's go to the opposite side. I'm a little bit over. Okay. Not perfect with this, but let's go with a different color. Oh. Didn't want to get. Did you see I just wiped out a bunch of my first one? This map is
You could lock your.
Yeah, I can lock them. Thank you. So what I didn't do, and then I ended up messing up my near perfect first district, I didn't lock the districts already drawn. So let's, in this case, I'm going to erase. Oops, I thought I was erasing. I didn't click the erase. Let's erase these out. I clicked on the eraser to erase some things out. See if I'm getting closer to population here. Let's erase that. Let's erase that. Let's just go ahead and lock these districts. I'm going to click on the lock the districts. Once I select the paintbrush, that becomes an option. Let's lock those so I don't mess up anymore. Start drawing my next color. I'm only at 845 people. And then let's start picking up these folks. You can see this is going to be a giant district. I don't want to make something non-contiguous, right? So let's kind of fill in this bottom part. Yeah, it's Santa Maria is going to kill us here.
No need to badmouth Rhode Island like that, Glenn.
Yeah, the whole state is New England, right?
Yeah. This is where we might want to zoom in and make our paintbrush smaller because I know it pretty. Certain click. Let's stop there. Okay, and then here let's finish Santa Maria. Okay. It's a rough way to do it. This is an awful looking map, but that gives you the idea. Okay.
Can you have a district that is completely surrounded by another district?
Yes. No, you can't have a donut hole district because that other district would. Oh, yes, you can. You can.
So like a circle
Yeah.
with another circle around.
Yeah, in other words,
Yeah.
an island in a sea.
Yes, because that would still be contiguous.
What's the significance of the offshore?
It's just within the county jurisdiction.
Something like fishing or
Mm-hmm.
wells or water.
Yeah. I kind of like to draw maps like this so you can see, even though the map look crazy, like this poor person only gets this little tiny amount of area. You know, you can see because the county is so differently populated in density in different areas, you're not going to have a perfectly proportional map. All right, that's District R. Let's go back to the website. Yes.
You said the tag was important to Essex County.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? So that you can find our designs?
Once you're ready to submit, you'll want to tag it so that we can find it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I want to point out for District R and for Calipers, Doug Johnson has recorded a video. Now, it's granted he recorded it for Sacramento County. Just fast forward 42 seconds in and it won't make a difference to you. But it explains, it takes a little bit more time to show the tools, and it's right here on this Draw Map page. It's this View the District R Mapping Tool training video. It's a YouTube video. And it's well done because it's better than looking at just the generic District R because it's related to California. You know, it's Doug doing it in the framework of the laws of California for redistricting. And so please take time to look at that video. It's not very long, it's just a few minutes, but that will give you a better reference too. Today, I'm exposing you to what they are so that you have an idea. Okay, let's go on to our to Maptitude, and this is the last one I'm going to demo. You've already seen the storybook a million times. It's not a tool, it's just a reference. So let's go into the Maptitude online. The thing I want to point out is there's always a quick start guide that pops up, and also from the web page there's a separate link that goes to a quick start guide that you can read through, and it's very helpful. It asks you to create a username and a login, and you'll want to do that because you'll want to save your maps until you're ready to submit. So you could have a couple of different maps going on, and it'll save it for you, and every time you log in, those maps will be there. I've already created a username and a password for myself, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. On July 2nd, I started playing around with this, and this, I just called it My Existing Districts. So what I took the existing districts and made some modifications. I'm going to delete that plan. It's not good. So I have no maps to get started. So I want to open a map. This is the part that's not that intuitive, for me at least. If I want to start a new plan, there's nothing to open. There's nothing listed here. So it actually prompts me. It says create a new plan to get started. So I'm going to go into new plan. I have two choices. I can either start from a blank slate, or I can start with the existing districts. So let's go ahead and let's start with the existing districts. Maybe I like the existing map. I just want to make a few tweaks. I'm going to do create, and it's going to automatically try to name it for me. And I'm just going to name it July 9th, my existing one, July 9th. Again, there's a quick start guide that's helpful. Let's see if I'm not sure how to shut this window. It may be useful for you to see. I think there's a way to shut it, but I can't remember how. The thing I want to point out is, see these hamburger stacked menus? Some of them call them hamburger menus, stacked menus. If you click on these, they either open or close them. And there's basically 4 in each corner, or 1 in each corner. One is the toolbox. The toolbox is what you're going to use for selecting which district you want to either add or subtract, that you want to add to, and where you want to take from. So we'll be talking about that. I'm going to open this options one first. I like to see a colored map. This is a good tip that everyone loves it when I tell them this tip. So I'm going to ask for my theme to show me the existing districts. So I'm going to select theme and then district ID, and it's going to color in the districts for me. Unfortunately, the color they chose for District 3 and 4 are very similar. I'm not even sure if they're showing a difference on the screen up there. You can see down here, the pink, the green, and the purple. Sometimes projectors are really lousy with the colors. I can't tell what you can see because I'm on an angle, but District 4 right here should show up differently than District 3. So now that I've set how I want it to look, I can close this. And when you watch the video that Doug has set up for you too, you can show different maps. Remember when I've showed you, say, for example, where the Latino citizen voting age population resides? You'll get that color-coded map that shows you the heavier populations of your Latino communities, and you're looking for the pinks, the yellow, and the green colors. So I did that by changing the layers. And I'm going to change it back to my district IDs, because right now I just want to focus on making a few tweaks here. I'm going to close this just so I have more real estate on the screen. I'm going to open this particular one. It's called Changes, because it's going to show me as I'm going along the population changes that I'm making in the particular district. So we know that District 3 is a little bit high in population, and we know that District 5 is a little bit low in population. And I can see that right here on the map because, well, actually District 5 is ideal. Okay, District 2 is a little bit underpopulated. It's, if you can't read that, it says negative 2.78. And District 3 is a little overpopulated. It's 6.57. So what I want to do is add to District 2. So how can we do that? Let's say I'm going to add to District 2, so that's going to be my target. And I want to take from District 3. So my source, instead of just taking from everywhere else, I'm going to take from District 3. And now you can see my green where I'm adding to. It's or the district I'm adding to is outlined in green. The district I'm taking from is outlined in red. This is important here, the selection level. We talked about the different levels. Oh, this is only allowing me to do it by block. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, we're doing it by block group. But I want to I don't want to have to click on every little block because that would take forever. And if I did that, I can show you what it looks like. If I clicked on every little block, in fact, let's zoom in. I'm going to do this plus sign so I can zoom in so I can see these borders a little bit better. When I click the plus sign, it's going to allow me to draw a rectangle to zoom in where that rectangle happens. Let me zoom in. Oh, I didn't click, I guess. Oh. I'm going to close this guy. Just know that if you, in this particular software, the indication that you're completed with something like drawing that rectangle is a double click. Okay, so I started the rectangle, I clicked and dragged, and then I did a double click. I'm going to use my pan feature to recenter. I'm going to click on the hand, recenter it a bit. Say I wanted to get even greater detail than that, so we get really close here. Doing the plus sign. See, that time I didn't have to double click. And now I'm at the block group level. If I just click this arrow right here, it's going to select one block at a time. You can see how small some of the blocks get. That's probably going to be a good size one. And you can see how long that could take doing block by block. So instead, I can either draw a circle around an area or I can kind of free form an area. This is probably the feature we use most, is the free form. So I'm going to click this free form to draw a shape. The way you start the shape, you click, move it, click, move it, click, move it, click, move it. I'm done. Double click. So let's see what that did as far as changes. That might be way too many people. So now, oh yeah, that was like way too many people. Because now in my District 2, I'm overpopulated by 33%. And I'm underpopulated in District 3 by 30%. So that was way too many people. What I can simply do is move some people. I can either say, accept this, I like it, or I can exit out, start all over. Let's exit out and start all over. Let's just do a few so I can show you what it looks like. I'm going to close this menu so I can see better. I'm going to pan so I can center Isla Vista a little bit better. Okay, I know that if we put Isla Vista in, it's going to be too big. So maybe let's just get this area right here. Again, I'm going to add I'm going to add to District 2, and I'm only going to take from District 3. And I'm going to do the free form. Something happened to my thing. Let's try it again. Added some funky changes. You see why? Because I touched a census block of that included this big area. Okay, I did a little bit better job. So now District 2 is just under by 2%, and District 3 is now only 5.7% over. Still not great, but say I like it. And I just clicked OK. And now my boundaries have changed. I can go use this back thing to get back to my initial display. Close this up. Kind of see how my map's looking. So when you're starting with a blank map, and you'll watch the video that Doug did because he does start with a blank map, you won't have these target numbers listed here. You'll be assigning the names yourself, but please use numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's just better. Don't give them a name. Just use them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So when you first open it up, you're going to be starting a new district, and the source is going to be unassigned because you won't have any districts assigned yet. This is a completely drawn map with the 5 districts. So once you've drawn your map and you like the way it is, you can check to see, you can check the plan integrity to find if there are any non-contiguous, find if there are any unassigned areas. It says no, there are no unassigned areas. You did a good job. Define if there's any non-contiguous areas. I think it might just default to saying yes because of the Channel Islands. The thing to look for here is the largest area that it's showing you. I think these are all probably Channel Islands that it's showing us, but you can click on and see what you can see. The first number is in District 2. It says there's some unassigned areas. The largest number is going to be your main body, and so you leave that intact and go to the next one. It's going to zoom in to where you're unassigned in District 2. And it's automatically going to say, okay, you're unassigned in this area. We think that what you want to move it is into District 1, and you would simply say okay. Or you could go ahead and click. I'm sorry. They changed the software a little bit from when I've last used it. I double-clicked on it. It should allow me to do okay. Maybe I have to confirm. Or select. Okay, I'm going to have to watch Doug's video myself because this tool is a little bit different than the last time. I'm sorry about that. But you get the idea. It will take you right to where that where it is, and you can click on that particular area that's not assigned and assign it. And it's intuitive. It will tell you where you think it wants you to put it. And then once you have resolved all the non-contiguous areas, then you go ahead and share your plan or submit your plan. There's 2 different features. So share means you want to share it with the community in general. You're not ready to submit it for the commission, for it to be produced, and for it to be actually part of the consideration. But you just want to share it with others because say, I think this, I like this plan. Do you guys like it? What tweaks would you make? Then you would do share a plan. But if you do want to submit it, it's two different things. You can either do both or one or the other. You can always just share a plan and never submit it, or you can submit a plan and never share it with the community. But if you want it considered by the commission, you ultimately have to submit it. Share a plan, what it would do is when you open up the software, it's going to be listed. So when you open up the software, as more people start using it, there's going to be some plans listed. There'll be probably some funky names or a person's name, and you can take their plan, and if you like it, you can modify it. And then the submit a plan. And what's great about this part is we want you to put a little narrative in on why you like your plan. And particularly if you have focused on one particular area, we want you to comment this, I live in District 1. I really focused in this particular area, so that we know that area was important to you, more focused on that. If you didn't really care much about how you drew the other one, say that, so that we know that the commission can know to focus on your area. And I'm over on my time, but I hope that is enough to get you started. And again, please watch the videos, these training videos. There's one for that, the tool I just showed you, and there's one for District R. And
There's nothing more dangerous than a Friday afternoon in a darkened room with mapping software.
It could be worse.
Shalise did a great job. Yes. Thank you, Shalise. Persevering, too, with your head cold. Very well done. Okay. If anybody has questions for Shalise about mapping, I'll just invite you to approach her directly and ask those questions as opposed to involving the whole group. We do have a couple concluding slides in the PowerPoint deck that I just want to make sure we complete. So if you wouldn't mind rolling back to your PowerPoint deck, Shalise. Just a friendly reminder about our upcoming meetings, right? So we got, again, Monday next week, and then Wednesday, August 4th, and August 12th are the upcoming meetings. So please come join us. We're trying to get all over the county to come see y'all. So Lompoc, Santa Maria, Solvang. Yes, I believe the August 4th one is going to be hybrid because they're in this fancy room that gives us the AV capability to do both. So the public is welcome to join us virtually if they so desire. And then next slide is just another friendly reminder. We have tried very hard to drive everything through drawSantaBarbaraCounty.org. We do this because there are a lot of meetings. There's been a lot of plans to get figured out in logistics. All those logistics are going to get updated again once we get into the map drawing process after the census data is released, and we'll have new locations to talk about for our additional hearings. The tools are released and available on that. We are trying to funnel all the feedback from the public through that website. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dogs and cats. Check out drawSantaBarbaraCounty.org to learn more, submit your feedback, and participate in the process. It's foundational to democracy, and we really appreciate the effort of our volunteer commissioners to help make it happen. I think with that, that's our last slide, and we will bring this to wrap. Thank you all for coming out today. Thank you to our non-commissioners that are here in the room for contributing your thoughts and ideas and participating in democracy, and have a great, safe weekend. Drive safe.
Really quick, because we started this as a formal
sorry.
meeting, we have to ask, is there any general public comment? Seeing none, we're now adjourned.